David. This is Michael. Welcome to our show where we understand it's pedantic to scrutinize the minutiae of our favorite TV shows and movies, but stick with us while we banter, because while it's of no true consequence, still we endeavor to be precise about the classification of the genre when we ask, does it sci-fi though?
And as always, we welcome your likes, subscribes, and Patreons. Today, we're looking at our primer, our rules that we go by when we're trying to describe, does it sci-fi?
We're asking questions about the question.
That's right.
Yeah, it's very meta.
We're giving definitions to our definitions.
So we've thought about this passively in the back of our head for years.
Certainly.
We're both lovers of the genre. And so we've had our own experiences. We also spent a quiet time in research looking at
What
scholarly
other people
ideas. We looked at H.G. Wells, Mary Shelley, Jules Verne, Isaac Asimov, Philip K. Dick, Ray Bradbury, Heinlein.
A few others as well.
It's a long list. The last few that I listed were ones that we felt were particularly prominent, well-spoken, and agreed with us. And the goal was to distill it. What are the essential elements of something that's sci-fi?
Right. Because many providers out there will classify a movie or a TV show as science fiction, but are they really doing it justice by calling it that?
Mm-hmm. The very first thing we ruled out was too many times they base the entire genre on a setting.
That's right.
But setting is obvious its own thing. It's setting.
Mm-hmm.
Genre isn't setting.
Just because it's in space doesn't mean it's sci-fi. It's more, it could be just a straight adventure.
So we started looking at the rules, because one thing that was obvious to us is the reason we phrased the question, does it sci-fi though? Sci-fi is something that's very purposeful. It's something that's done intentionally by the author. They set out to sci-fi.
Mm-hmm.
You don't accidentally sci-fi.
Right.
You could have a character idea and accidentally end up writing a drama or accidentally end up writing a rom-com as things evolved and like you really got more into your characters. You could easily go either of those directions.
Right.
But you're not going to start with a rom-com and then be like, whoops, I think this is a sci-fi. You could have small sci-fi themes because everything, there's gray area, there's overlap.
Sure.
All movies are multiple genres.
Right.
But for it to be your main genre requires purpose.
Yeah, you can't just have a trope, and then fall into, backwards into, the genre of sci-fi.
So real quick, shotgun, what are our main tropes?
Spaceships,
Mm-hmm.
artificial intelligence, robots, set in the future, time travel, perhaps something from an extra dimension.
Yeah. Yeah, all of these things, just their mere presence will usually get a sci-fi label on them.
Instant.
And sometimes it's correct that it has a small sci-fi element,
Right.
but there's several other genres that are above it. So let's start with what we felt, in our opinion, based on some scholarship, primarily Robert Heinlein, Ray Bradbury, and Philip K. Dick are our three main citations. We went through 100 of them.
50.
We really settled on these three.
Right.
And Robert Heinlein really set us off in the beginning. So our first one was there has to be a rule change. And this is a very simple one. A lot of films will have a rule change, but they may not necessarily go all the way down the list to become a sci-fi. All we're saying with the rule change is the universe is different than our universe.
Right. This is not, your common rom-com, set in an everyday world.
Mm-hmm.
Something different.
Something's different. Now, the trope is, it's not sci-fi. The trope is like it's tech-fi. Mm-hmm. They want all of it to be technology. But we're just saying the rules have to be different because it's science fiction. Science are the rules that explain how things work. So it could be technology. That's the source of the rule change. It could be societal. It could be just a different structure of how the world is organized. Or it could be natural.
Right.
The universe could just have different laws of physics. And that leads down a road, possibly, that they take it in a sci-fi direction.
Right.
The question is, after the rule change, we come to the next thing. Does it have a distinct event?
Is the drama, is the event in the drama based on the rule change. Is the world then driving the conflict in the story?
And sometimes we learn about the rule change earlier and then later get the distinct event. Sometimes we learn about them at the same time.
Right.
But the distinct event has to be something that happens in this world, something in the plot that, occurs that matters to our character, whether they're immediately there or just, directly involved somehow or indirectly. But it has to be a specific scenario that can only happen in that world. It couldn't happen in our world because of the rule change.
Right. It's completely different. So it sets us apart.
Mm-hmm.
So we're not in our world. We're in another place.
Right.
So the conflict fuel is a result of that.
Mm-hmm.
The change in the environment, the distinct event then leads to our conflict. Our main character is now involved in a situation that is a result of the place he's in.
Yeah, there's some kind of fire that's driving him. Mm-hmm. Something because of the distinct event, because of the rule change. And, some shows, all three of those happen simultaneously. Mm-hmm. We get all of a sudden in a big twist and things are going, we thought things were going to go left, but oh, we're going that way.
Right.
Okay. But it's important that the conflict fuel is specific to this world that happened because of the distinct event and involves the rule change. Because it's something that's special, that's different here. And it's important that our fourth criteria, it's a human problem.
Right.
The most obvious trope that goes against us is, we have the MacGuffin. There's something lost, we got to go retrieve the treasure, bring it back, problem solved.
Right.
That's not a human problem.
No.
What our character has to struggle with has to be either something emotional, they're struggling with something in their heart, or it has to be something cerebral and pensive that they're thinking about, they're struggling with something in their mind. But that has to be their struggle.
Right. Our hero can't just be an icon. He has to have a problem that he has to overcome. Mm-hmm. That's usually an internal problem that involves, growth in his character.
Yeah. And that problem has to be meaningful because that leads us to the next one.
Right. The mirror, where it reflects on our society. Mm-hmm. How is this, drama and this world that is being created reflect on our society?
Mm-hmm. Or it might reflect on our relationships with our family.
In a small sense or a large sense. Yeah.
It could be they're having an internal conflict and maybe we reflect on our internal conflict. But whatever the conflict can't be purely inside the show. The conflict is also in us as a viewer. Mm-hmm. And so it's bigger than just the show. There's a reflection that we are in conflict somehow in our lives, in our world, in our relationships, in our universe, at some scale. Right. But we have a problem too, just like the character. And we're getting a reflection there.
That's right.
And, there's some kind of question that's asked, a what if question. And that leads us to, it gives us something to think about. What if blank? What if this happened? What if things were different that way? What if you had the opportunity of blank? And we're supposed to walk away thinking about it.
Right.
Maybe debating it.
Certainly. That's the best. The best shows give you the opportunity to talk about it. Mm-hmm. So if you're talking about it, you're usually dealing with a headier show than a normal rom-com.
And it's interesting because you could discuss with another person who watched the show, but in a way you're also discussing with the show because it has also offered an examined ideal.
That's right.
It gives some kind of answer. Sometimes it's loose, sometimes it's very in-depth, sometimes it's generalized, sometimes it's like really written out, but there's some kind of answer that they're saying, have you considered this as a possible answer? And it gives you a perspective, and then you can have your own perspective, you can agree or disagree, or maybe you agree with it and I disagree with it. And
I think the perspective is the proper word for it. It offers a point of view that that a solution could be derived from. It could be a way to think about things that you weren't currently familiar with.
Yeah. And so it's not just one thing that makes it sci-fi. It's really all 7 of these criteria that come together that really just shows us the purpose of the author putting together this scenario to allow us to have this experience and to allow us to have some thoughts or some growth or some resolution or reflection. And that's what makes sci-fi one of my it is my very favorite genre.
And it's what separates sci-fi from adventure. Right. Or mystery. It's not just an iconic character moving through a story to the end where he gets his reward, saves the day. It's more about the character growth. So if the character's not growing, it's really just not a science fiction story.
Yeah. And now science fiction's a big genre. A lot of people include a bunch of things in it, and we welcome them to enjoy the things they want to enjoy. We're not trying to say our ideas are better than their ideas. We're just highlighting what we enjoy about the sci-fi, what defines our sci-fi, and what we like. We're not trying to gatekeep and keep people out. Like, if you disagree with us, that's fine. If anything, we're interested to hear, what are your criteria? Why do you think it's sci-fi?
Right.
Because what attracted us to sci-fi is we like to have those conversations. And so, even in our research, there were people we disagreed with.
Certainly. Yeah.
Some people went down too far a road of, oh, it's only sci-fi if the rules are reasonable. Like, maybe we will discover that.
Right.
And if
it's science-based.
if it's
futures.
wizardry, that can't be sci-fi.
Right.
Well, maybe it could.
Could be.
Possibly.
Yeah.
It depends on the purpose. It depends on the rest of the 7 questions.
Right.
That's only the first question. What about the other 6?
And I remember the quote that it's science fiction because I say so.
Yeah.
I
Which
really let it give up.
is valid. Is valid.
Yeah.
But that debate and that thought and that reflection is what really makes us value it. So we hope you'll stay with us as we go through different shows. As we hang out here with Cheerio.
He's always joining us at awkward times.
We go through TV shows, movies, some classic, some obscure. But as we go through them, we're going to ask, does it sci-fi though?